like to have a Make the Case segment. Last week we talked about making the case for Georgia being dethroned. I put the premise up there that that doesn't necessarily mean that you believe that they will be dethroned in the SEC, but ultimately it is your job as college football analyst to make the case. So let's start with Christian here, because I think he actually truly believes this one. Make the case for why Penn State will be playing in the Big Ten Championship as the East champ.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think the way that they were able to run the football last year was huge. I think that was the biggest thing that handcuffed Clifford from a consistency standpoint throughout his career. And last year they finally got it. I want to give a big tip of the cap to the way that they developed Drew Allar. I think getting him those reps last year was really valuable, and I think seeing how they can make the offense his this year and how quickly they can transition into that is going to be a big factor as well, because at the end of the day, to be a national championship contender, and that's what you are if you win the Big Ten as a national championship contender. To be that, you need somebody pulling the trigger who can be a difference maker, and I think the kid's got the potential to do it. And then defensively, I think they need to continue to build on what they did last year, play fast, play aggressive, play in space, and create turnovers. But ultimately, I think it comes down to those three things. I think it comes down to the offensive line, their ability to run the football and continue that mindset that really hasn't evaded Penn State in its history, and has for the past few years, really since Saquon. Getting back to that, Drew having a hell of a start to the year and really being able to ride that high throughout the rest of the season, and then the defense being able to take away the football on a consistent basis and play fast.
I think that Penn State, they have an opportunity to do it. They got a good defense. They have a good running game. I think it's going to be awfully tough for them, though. But I do see if they're going to do anything, it's going to be leaning on the tailback play and leaning on the defense. Tough games with Ohio State and Michigan. But if you beat those teams, obviously you're going to be in the Big Ten Championship. I still think it's going to be a tough road for them, though.
I think when you look at Penn State, the schedule actually sets up well for them, not having to play Michigan and Ohio State too close in terms of back-to-back or one game apart. I think the two-headed monster is going to carry the load until they feel really comfortable unleashing Drew Allar. I love his talent. I love what he brings from a standpoint of being able to throw all the throws, make the throws. The key will be getting him a lot of reps early in the season, being able to take the cuffs off and see what he is comfortable doing from a standpoint of being able to make plays with his arms. Because come Big Ten time, you have to know that people are going to load the box and force you to make throws. And then ultimately, in those crunch time plays on the flip side, can the defense stand up and get those big stops? But I think this is probably one of the best years for them to be able to make a run at getting in the championship. And again, it's going to rely on that two-headed monster, but ultimately, can Drew make plays when need be? As we all know, and we all talk about in football, can he make championship plays throughout the year to get them over the hump?
And it's been since 2008 that Penn State has beat both Michigan and Ohio State. Christian, you're close to this program. Why do you think the gap is so large right now between Penn State and the top two, considering the fact that recruiting has been great? I mean, they've had the #2 recruiting class in the Big Ten the last two cycles. They've got the rich history. They've got the resources. From your perspective, why is that gap so large at this moment?
Yeah, it's interesting because, you go back and like I said, Penn State was the first ones to uncrown Ohio State in 2016. And then the inability to build on that for whatever reason that may be. Right. And I don't want to get too deep into the details, but for whatever reason, they were not able to carry that momentum out the way that Michigan has, for example, the past 2 years. So whatever that is, I think Coach Franklin really needs to figure that out. I think he's done a great job this year of figuring it out. Mike Yursich, some consistency there now at the offensive side is great. That's something that hasn't happened. There's been a lot of turnover in terms of the voices that these players have been hearing on a consistent basis, top to bottom. So being able to find some consistency and messaging and identity on both sides of the ball is big. I think he has that for the first time in a while. And I think that was probably the largest thing, is their ability to have an identity, a consistent identity, not rely on names like Saquon and Trace, not rely on the names, but rely on the foundation, the system, the program, and how they do it. So I think they're building towards that. I think Coach Franklin really has figured that out. And I think this year, we've said it, I think this year is a big year for them to take that next step. They have to make some noise and at least make it hard on one of these programs to win the East.
Real quick, Christian, how high are expectations among fans for this upcoming season?
There's a lot of excitement. You know, everyone I've talked to is really excited about 15, and rightfully so. He's got a ton of talent, and like I said, they did a great job of getting him valuable reps last year. While Clifford was making his way out, you know, got Drew some really good reps, and I think that's going to pay dividends in terms of his transition into this year. But there's a lot of expectations, and the two guys in the backfield are extremely talented. And like I said, I think that offensive line has really done a great job of developing that mentality where they're going to wear on you, they're going to be physical, and it's going to be for 4 quarters. And I think that has been something that has been missing. Going back to your earlier question, like when you're talking about it, dominating offensive line play has been missing at Penn State. It's something that historically has always been there. And I think they're starting to turn that corner. If they can get all those 3 things working in the right way, like you said, from a recruiting standpoint, from a talent standpoint, they're there. They just have to get the right mixture.